Welcome to Myths and Lore. Today we're going to explore the findings of the great wizard Mordekainen when he studied the different types of gnomes, the small curious folk of the Dungeons and Dragons series. Love of discovery is the force that drives the life of a gnome, whether one is investigating the nature of a magic object or trying to invent a better back scratcher. Questions about the world fill a gnome's head. How an insect flies, a fish swims, or a grasshopper jumps. They want to figure it all out. But it's not just nature and its workings that intrigue them. Gnomes become obsessed with all sorts of topics. In particular, they have a keen interest in mechanical devices, the natural world, and magical pursuits. A gnome might seek to invent a new garden tool, collect and categorize every type of butterfly, or develop a new method for cutting gemstones. A member of this tiny race is rarely bored and tries to savor every minute of life as it's full of opportunities to learn, to help others, and to have fun. Gnomes are born with a fascination for learning fueled by an irrepressible curiosity. Most individuals settle on a specialized area of study, such as an aspect of the natural world, a particular method of invention, or the patterns that underlie the multiverse. Through this pursuit of knowledge might compel a gnome to spend long periods in the workshop or the laboratory. The activity is never seen as drudgery, quite the opposite. Gnomes enjoy making an unexpected aspect of life more enjoyable, such as inventing a shovel that whistles a tune to lighten the toil of digging, or creating a telescopic fork that can reach across the table to entertain mealtime. Their fun-loving attitude also comes through in the form of jokes that gnomes tell to or about their companions, and in the good-spirited pranks they may play on each other, and on other folk who might not always appreciate being the target of their humor. Almost all gnomes possess a happy-go-lucky attitude that most races could envy. For gnomes, the journey is the destination. Gnomes aren't overly goal-oriented as they pursue their interests. They're one and the same, the journey and the destination, and an achievement at the end of one journey is merely the first step toward the next accomplishment. Even though failure, disappointment, and dead ends are recurring obstacles in the path to discovery, gnomes revel in the search. They savor the acquisition of new knowledge, realizing it might come at a cost, and even a series of bad results and experiments doesn't dissuade a gnome from following their chosen path. There are a few different types of gnomes that we're going to look into today. First, we're going to look into the rock gnomes. A visitor's first steps into a rock gnome warren are accompanied by sounds of industry. Hammers rapping on metal, chisels chewing on wood, cauldrons bubbling, and a host of assorted squeaks, pings, and whistles. Against this backdrop, the halls echo into the voices of rock gnome inventors jabbering at near unintelligible speed about their latest ideas, and all the hubbub is occasionally punctured by a big bang or the abrupt collapse of some unstable contraption. To rock gnomes, life is a combination of scavenger hunts and periods of bold experimentation. First, they mine materials from within the earth, and then they figure out what they can create or invent using those resources. The discovery of a new vein of metal, whether tin, copper, silver, or gold, makes rock gnomes clap their hands with glee. But they are the happiest of all when they find a cache of gems, particularly diamonds. Aren't we all, right? Individual gnomes often have different ideas about what sorts of inventions are the most satisfying to create, with some favoring practicality and others more interested in artistic expression. In each group, there are those who prefer to practice the alchemical arts and those whose talents lean more towards the creation of mechanical devices. Every warren has members of each persuasion, and they are all bound by mutual respect for what they do despite their different perspectives. Rock gnomes that take a more practical, scientific approach to inventing are the ones responsible for creating technological devices that make life easier for everybody. Even an invention of a simple new kind of rake is celebrated, and that advance might later be suppressed by someone who modifies it in a way that makes it more efficient and more enjoyable to use. These inventors are rarely reluctant to try making devices of exceptional power. Even if one might not work at first the way that it was intended to, the gnomes know that it is always possible for someone else to learn from an inventor's mistake. So even a failed experiment is a success in some way. Every minor explosion or other incident of turmoil in a rock gnome burrow serves as a clue about what not to do next time. Unless, of course, that goal was to make something explode in the first place. The imagination of a gnome runs rampant. Any new idea can be the starting point into a new era of experimentation and discovery. Even though rock gnomes appreciate the practical aspects of their endeavors, they also find much satisfaction in creating items that have no true usefulness. Many an invention is celebrated just for being beautiful to behold, or for being complex and intricate in its construction. The artists who create these kinds of inventions are as esteemed as those who create tools that advance the civilization of the gnomes. As gnomes see it, exploration is a part of invention. So creating machines and artifacts that seem to have no purpose is no problem to them. The gnomes who produce these works of art are using new ideas and new approaches, breaking through old boundaries and advancing the frontier of knowledge. For instance, an artist might create a beautiful articulated sculpture whose pieces can be manipulated in a unique way. Another artisan might take that idea and apply it to a new form of invention, but no one forgets that it was the artist's idea that blazed the trail for that journey. Rock gnomes also have alchemists that explore the nature of minerals and chemicals, curious to see what happens when they mix certain substances with other compounds or with raw magic. Most alchemists, even those who busy themselves with experimentations and new ideas, can produce a number of useful substances. Most people will recognize a rock gnome artificer as they construct exquisitely tooled and enameled pieces of machinery, often weaving magical properties into their work. Artificers often develop a reputation for a particular type and style of work. For example, a friendly gnome might create a lovable, mechanical pet and companion, while a grumpy one will create a snapping critter construct with sharp teeth and claws. Gnome artificers can become famous with their works, highly sought after by nobles, wizards, and other collectors. An artificer's inventions might include items such as a lockbox that opens with verbal commands or a series of gestures, a clockwork critter designed to respond to simple commands, or a common magic item that the beholder Xanathar hoards, which you can find reference to his hoard in the city of Waterdeep. Rock gnomes are absolutely notorious for their tunnel vision. When they work, rock gnomes hole up in their workshops with "Do Not Disturb" signs hung on the door. It isn't uncommon for gnomes who are working on their projects to spend most of their time in seclusion, and even when they do emerge, for meals or other reasons, they are often deep in thought and oblivious of their surroundings. In the safety of the burrow, they seldom come to harm because of this vulnerability. But even city-dwelling gnomes can fall prey to this sort of obsession as they pursue their projects. And in such cases, it's much safer for them to stay in their homes, since a gnome wandering the streets deep in thought is liable to walk into a moat or be run over by a wagon. Next, we'll look into forest gnomes, the cute red-hatted culture of gnomes that we often have statues of in our gardens. As the companions of nature and its animals, forest gnomes learn from their surroundings as if from a master teacher. They evade incursions into their wooded realm by great numbers of humans and other races, but they aid individuals and small groups whom they deem worthy of their help. They create lovely gardens, organic sculptures, and wondrous emerald jewelry, that precious green stone being their favorite of all gems. Forest gnome settlements often escape notice. Roving hunters can wander through without ever suspecting that they are walking through anything but wilderness. A community of elves might be surprised to discover they have been neighbors of a forest gnome village for years. Forest gnomes are good at making their homes vanish into the landscape. It helps that they are small folk, and that they fashion their homes by digging down and living within, rather than building up and living above. Like the badgers and raccoons that are often their companions, they live in the hollows of trees and warrens dug into hillsides, each home connected to others in the community by elaborate burrows. Beyond the secret doors into their houses, The homes of forest gnomes are gaily decorated, tidy spaces that take advantage of natural features. A great glass bowl swimming with fish and frogs might serve as a skylight for a gnome burrow, while appearing to be, from the world above, a small pond. The gnarled and tangled roots of a tree might be used as shelves, seats, tables, and bed spaces. Such houses often have many little channels open up to the outside, allowing scraps of sunlight to drapple the walls and floors, and provide a means of egress for the many animals that live with the gnomes. Similar small openings are used for the cleverly hidden chimneys disguised as tree branches, which carry smoke from their small fires high into the treetops, reducing it to little more than haze by the time it shoots out the top. These gnomes can communicate with many of the small animals of the woods. Squirrels, raccoons, foxes, weasels, owls, rabbits, robins, hummingbirds, and more are their allies and friends. Outsiders often think of these creatures as the gnomes' pets, but the gnomes treat them more like trusted neighbors. When strangers approach a woodland inhabited by forest gnomes, the gnomes often know about it while such visitors are still miles away. Speedy squirrels run through the treetops, each trying to be the first to warn the gnomes and earn a sweet treat. Birds trill a special call that alert the gnomes to danger. At night, nocturnal animals such as owls and bats carry word to the gnomes during times when they should be on their guard. Forest gnomes have innate magical ability, letting them create simple illusions. They practice the use of illusions magic from an early age. Most forest gnome communities include a full-fledged illusionist and an apprentice or two, and they use their talents in service of the community, designing longer-lasting or larger-scale illusions that help the community stay hidden from the world. Gnomes use illusions for practically any reason, as a game, for defense, or for communication, and sometimes for no reason other than artistic considerations. A simple illusion can often express a complex idea, such as the memory of a location is triggered by the illusion sound of a babbling brook that runs through the place. A storytelling session conducted by a group of forest gnomes is a riot of sounds and images. It helps give meaning and intensity to the tale being told. It is a kind of entertainment unfathomable by most other races, whose stories and performances are limited by whatever materials are on hand. Who'd have thought the forest gnomes figured out TV first? The forest gnomes' playful nature shows through in the illusions they create, even those that have a serious purpose. An illusion that conceals the entrance to a tunnel by making it look like solid earth might not amuse other folk, but the gnomes get a good laugh out of it. Forest gnomes spend their spare time experimenting with the creation of never-before-seen illusions, or embellishing the images and sounds they already know to produce. The number of ways in which forest gnomes use illusions to have fun is nearly limitless. A few examples: visual enhancements to a mythic tale told by an elder, new and interesting sounds, and false doors and hallways to fool intruders and lead them into traps. Most people are going to walk through the door that you put a big sign above that says treasure, and goblins just can't pass a door that calls them names. Gnomes of either type can often make interesting and driving members of any adventuring party. Due to their iconic stature and curiosity, they can often get to places and investigate the right clues to keep the party going forward. Also, an adventuring party who encounters a gnome settlement can explore it as an upbeat respite to the many horrors player characters face. Many of you definitely noticed we didn't cover the deep gnomes in this exploration, but we will save them for another video as I must take lessons to learn how to pronounce their names. This has been Myths and Lore Explored. Please like this video and subscribe if you like what this channel is doing. Good day.